So over the past 2 months, every TWAB has introduced some change that's coming in Beyond Light. Now next Tuesday, we're going to get a consolidated version of all of this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say right off the bat, guys, we may not be covering that 30-page or 40-page document. It's going to be that long. There's just that many changes that are coming in Beyond Light. And even though this is an expansion on Destiny 2, these changes are sequel-level changes, which is why we actually collected 20 of the biggest changes coming in this next expansions. What you're going to notice right off the bat, whether you're a new Light player or a veteran player. So let's get started. Beginning in Beyond Light, something you're going to notice real quick with the directory is that Titan, Io, Mercury, and Mars will no longer be there. That's right, they are going into the DCV known as the Destiny Content Vault. But in its place will actually be the Cosmodrome from Destiny 1, as well as the new destination, Europa. At number 2, Beyond Light is introducing for the first time darkness-based subclasses, also known as Stasis. We'll be receiving 3 new subclasses: the Revenant for the Hunter, the Behemoth for the Titan, and the Shadebinder for Warlocks. Essentially, this is the first of many darkness-based subclasses that we're going to get, hence the name of the expansion Beyond Light. And we're speculating expansions down the road will eventually lead us to a split between light-based subclasses and dark-based subclasses, thus pushing us to make a choice. What's even more interesting is the layout of the subclasses themselves. They're not like our current subclasses, which actually makes us wonder if the overhaul to our current subclasses will occur in a future date, matching that of the darkness-based subclasses. Either way it goes, darkness-based subclasses has been something we've been asking for since Destiny 1 Vanilla. At number 3, be looking for the caps to all get an increase in this next expansion. Actually, the soft cap will be raised to 1200, the hard cap will be raised to 1250, and the pinnacle cap will be raised to 1260. These are actually our level changes. Something to keep in mind, especially for those that are trying to get raid ready before the 21st of November. Point number 4, starting in Season 13, Phase Glass Needles, Alkane Dust, Simulation Seeds, and Seraphites will no longer be accepted by vendors due to the vaulting of Titan, Io, Mercury, and Mars. Now notice it says Season 13. Seen a lot of people already turning in their resources. You can go ahead and do it right now, or you still got the entirety of Season of the Hunt to actually exchange these materials with Spider. Either way it goes, these materials will be pretty much useless going forward. Moving on to point number 5. This was actually a change announced in the most recent TWAB, and a huge one. Anti-champion mods will now slot to armor pieces instead of the weapons itself. Now this is a big change for a couple reasons. Number 1, for legendaries, you won't have to take up that mod slot anymore on your weapons. You can still rock things like minor spec, major spec, or boss spec. But probably the biggest change, and one of which I completely missed in the most recent TWAB, is the fact that anti-champion mods can now be utilized alongside with exotics. You've got that favorite exotic weapon you want to bring into that Nightfall ordeal. Boom. You can keep using it, and no longer will you actually have to swap it out for a legendary due to anti-champion mods not being able to be applied to your exotic. Now, there are mods currently right now which do apply to armor pieces, which allows us to bypass and allow exotics to be utilized in this way. But the main takeaway is this: all anti-champion mods are moving to armor pieces. Point number 6, past weapons, legendaries, and vaulted raid exotics will now be able to be obtained through Xur and the new kiosk. This was also announced in the most recent TWAB. There's going to be a new kiosk called the Monument to Lost Lights Exotic Archive, where folks can actually exchange Glimmer, destination materials, masterwork materials, and an exotic cipher or ascended shard in order to purchase exotic or legendary loot that they recently missed. This includes things like old raid exotics, old quests, most notably the exotic quests that are going away due to the vaulting of those planets. And even though exotic ciphers are something very, very rare, as there's only one tied to the season pass, Xur will actually be offering some sort of quests on a weekly basis, allowing for us to obtain exotic ciphers. Honestly, this is a great change. I know some people don't like the fact that everyone's going to have access to these exotics, but considering how many new players Destiny adds daily, there's just a lot of exotics those players will miss out on due to Destiny content vaulting. Now at number 7, this is a huge change for console players. Destiny 2 will finally get an FOV slider and a frame rate boost to 60 FPS 4K in Destiny 2 Beyond Light. Now, technically, it won't actually release until December. I think it's the first week of December, right? Somebody give me an exact date. Essentially, Bungie's trying to roll out the new consoles first, and then there will be an update giving a boost to the performance and graphics of the game. Now, I really wish this was rolling out when Destiny 2 Beyond Light launched, but the consoles are launching a few days after Beyond Light is dropping, so I get it. Some timing issues there. And I know devs actually need a little bit of time to kind of sink their teeth into the new generation consoles to actually optimize it the best. And this is actually the thing I think that pushed Cyberpunk back, as they needed to do the exact same thing, which is why they have a December release date now instead of November. Either way it goes, an FOV slider for console players, along with 60 frames per second at 4K. Oh, it's sexy. Number 8, armor mods will now be dropping Elemental Affinity. Yeah, I know, about a year late, but thank God it's happening. Armor mods have been tied with Elemental Affinity, which kind of pushed us to constantly be keeping all kinds of pieces of armor, which bloated our vaults. Now that they're dropping Elemental Affinity, armor mods can be freely swapped and matched with your favorite pieces of armor. And again, we actually covered this a while back. A huge reason why Elemental Affinity even existed was to limit the amount of mods that were shown on our screen. For some reason, that was causing Destiny 2 to crash. And we're gonna get into bug fixes and overhauls, as that's another big change coming to Destiny 2 Beyond Light. Regardless though, armor mods dropping Elemental Affinity, a huge win. Which actually takes us to number 9, removal of enhanced mods. That's right, enhanced mods are actually getting removed. Now that sounds bad. It's actually not, because Bungie's increasing the efficacy of regular mods to match that of enhanced mods, meaning less cost, but the same potency. And as someone who's constantly wanting to rock enhanced level mods alongside some of my favorite builds, it's a nightmare to try to fit that many mods within a 10-point system. This will now free things up to allow us to rock our favorite builds with our most dangerous mods. Which takes us to number 10, raid mods. Yes, they're gonna be a thing, and they will exist starting next season. They'll be able to be slotted in the 5th slot of raid armor pieces, thus giving us more value to our raid armor. And I love that it's not just rolled on this raid armor, it's actually something that can be slotted in and out, which means Bungie can actually make tweaks and changes directly to these mods, as well as add additional mods in the future. At number 11, another great change coming to exotics. Exotic armors, including all armor starting in Season 12, will now be able to accept Charge with Light and War Mindcell mods. This is a fantastic change, most notably for exotic armor pieces. Have you ever had that perfect Charge with Light build or that perfect War Mindcell build, but you wanted to rock it alongside an exotic, but you couldn't because you couldn't slot one of those mods into your exotic armor? No longer. This is a huge change, allowing for more freedom and more potency for our builds. Change number 12. Adept weapons are being added. Yes, finally. Trials of Osiris is finally getting adept weapons. Now, adept weapons are weapons that are a little more potent. You get them for flawless completions. There's going to be some stat bonuses, some mods, etc. that allows these weapons to be a little deadlier than their normal versions. And that's kind of how they were back in Destiny 1, right? It was normally like a simple perk or something added and a cosmetic difference, which to me actually served more of a flex than anything. Regardless though, these are pinnacle level weapons that we love to see. Moving on to change number 13. I'm not gonna cover every sandbox changes, but these are the big ones. Number 1, 110 round per minute hand cannons won't exist. That's right, they're converting to 120 rounds per minute, getting a slight bump there in rate of fire, and 150 round per minute hand cannons are also converting to 140s, outside of course Sunshot. Sunshot will be the only 150 in the game. These are big changes coming to hand cannons. So if you're having to pick up a hand cannon after Beyond Light and you're like, yo, what the hell's going on with this hand cannon? Why is this hand cannon shooting faster and this one's shooting slower? Well, that's why. Now, change number 14. Oh, yes. Getting into the nerdy aspect, but man, is it important. Bungie is actually going to be overhauling Destiny 2 and Beyond Light, shifting things from a mission host to a physics host. Now, this is supposed to create a more seamless joining experience with fire teams, as well as faster bug fixes when bugs do occur. That's kind of the issue right now with Destiny 2. Every time there's a bug, there's normally like a 2 or 3 day delay due to everything being built on this mission host. Now, what was not said about this is supposedly converting to a physics host is going to allow the anti-cheats inside of Destiny 2 to be much more efficient. Bungie didn't exactly say that, but talking with other coders and such, that's what's being stated. Speaking of overhauls though, point number 15, dynamic weather is being added. This is something that Bungie has brought up multiple times, showcasing Europa and its weather, the harshness of the cold. Dynamic weather is something I guess Bungie's been working toward for a very long time. There's going to be noticeable difference in weather patterns, how immersive the game feels, both visually and our audio. As far as weather is currently, it's a little more static, right? Like we have some changes here and there, but we don't have like squalls coming in, right? You just got like a little bit of drizzle, couple storms. This dynamic weather change is gonna be like, boom, hurricanes, typhoons, blizzards. And look, what would even be even more dope is if in the future, if a blizzard got so out of hand, it actually cut the comms with you and your fire teammates. Like if you weren't in a party chat, but like in-game chat, and if you lose sight of them or something, or if the weather got way out of hand, another added aspect to that immersiveness would be to like lose comms with your fire team members. That's the future, man. That's gonna happen if it's not already happening in some games. Either way it goes, it's coming to Destiny 2. I'm very excited about it. Moving on to change number 16. We are getting customizable ghost shells. And I'm not talking about cosmetics. I'm talking about full-blown customizations in Beyond Light. Our ghosts will actually have mods that can be slotted. This will include an experienced mod slot, a tracking mod slot, an economic mod slot, and an activity mod slot. Very interesting mods ranging from Speed Demon to Treasure Hunter, all of which that can be slotted on your favorite ghosts, all of which is going to push us to actually take some time to build our ghosts for once, which is pretty amazing. Moving on to number 17, pursuit weapons are returning. Now, pursuit weapon, one weapon per season. Will it be on the level of Pinnacles? I don't know if it will or not. I've seen some data mining here and there. We do know for a fact that the weapon very much looks like Beloved for this season. It's going to be a sniper rifle. The difference between this pursuit weapon and previous pursuit weapons is that the pursuit weapon for every season can be obtained through all of the core playlists. So whether or not you want to play Gambit, Crucible, or Strikes, you can play any of these and obtain the Pinnacle pursuit weapon. The only difference is, of course, depending on which playlist you complete the quest in, you get a different look for the weapon. Pretty cool stuff. Which actually takes us to the core playlist itself. At number 18, all core playlists are getting an armor refresh. Now, this is not an entire vendor refresh. As far as we know, there is no new weapons coming to the core playlist. I think there is going to be new weapons. They're just not going to be new weapons. I look to see probably some reissue weapons here and there for our core playlists. But for armor, yes, we will be getting an armor refresh. And again, feel free to check out our reality check that we did on Destiny 2, essentially going over the issue with vendor weapons and just vendor refreshes overall, as this really kind of conflicts with Bungie's monetization, free to play, all that good stuff. But speaking more on core playlists, point number 19, Crucible and Vanguard playlists are actually being simplified, essentially consolidated. Now, this is going to offer less options, but there's going to be higher populations in each of these game modes. Now, I know a lot of people want tons of options, especially my Halo guys. As someone who grew up with Griffball, man, we had like 12 different game modes and just that one sub game mode. I get it, dude. The issue is connectivity inside of Destiny 2, as well as the overall matchmaking ecosystem, gets really out of hand when there's too many playlists. Bungie consolidating things, it's going to simplify things and actually give value to certain playlists that rotates in and out. But speaking of another core playlist that is also being simplified, point number 20 and our final point, Gambit. Gambit is actually being consolidated into a single mode. We've been calling it Gambit Perfected. I don't even know if we got a full name on it, but Gambit is being merged with Gambit Prime. And I really like what Bungie's doing here. They're taking some really good aspects of Gambit Prime and some good aspects of Gambit and just kind of like taking the best of both worlds and putting it together. Will this be enough to spark interest back in Gambit? Maybe. Regardless though, it's happening. So guys, those are your 20 changes. We 100% glazed over a few. This is more of a consolidated video, talking about things that have been consolidated and simplified. We will be covering the new sandbox as soon as we get patch notes to it, but that one's gonna be a long video. Like I'm projecting potentially a 45-minute long video of just everything that is changing in this next expansion. Let me know though, guys, in the comments below which one of these you're most excited to be seeing. Again, to me, these are sequel level changes, the kind of quality of life changes that you want to see. And considering that Bungie is beginning Beyond Light as the first iteration to another trilogy, I see all of these changes as a very long-term win. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.